All right, welcome to another episode of After the Whistle, a Front Porch Sports podcast. I am Murray. Today it is going to be just me. We got a lot we're going to get into. We had a very busy weekend in college basketball. We got kind of a big Tuesday in college basketball coming up. This is going to be out Tuesday morning. So we're going to give out some picks for those games. That way you guys can get them in before the Tuesday night games and make some money. Because we only give out winners here. It's winners only, as always. But before we get into college basketball, real quick, because there's not too much to really say about it, I'm going to just start with the MLB. Nolan Arenado traded to the St. Louis Cardinals earlier this weekend, more so. The NL Central as a division was kind of up for grabs. The Cubs kind of unloaded a little bit. Some of their good players left. Schwarber and Lester both went to the Nationals. We'd been hearing rumors about Chris Bryant leaving and stuff like that. And then the rest of the teams, if you look at that division, the Pirates are terrible. So they're not really relevant in this conversation. The Brewers are good. They had a good season 2 years ago. Last year, Yelich didn't have too good of a year. I'm a big Yelich fan. I'd love to see him bounce back. And then, you got the Reds, who are probably going to lose Bauer, who's the top pitcher in baseball, arguably. And then the Cardinals, who are a good team. So with that division kind of being up for grabs, the Cardinals went out and made a move that is going to put them right in World Series contention, in my opinion. When you look at the NL, I think they're the clear front runner for that division now. And then I'm not going to get too into the MLB because we are going to have like a pre-baseball season episode kind of breaking that down. But just looking at the other divisions in the NL, you got a couple. The Braves are really good. And then, who knows how these new look Mets are going to be. And then obviously in the NL West, the Dodgers, the reigning World Series champions, are going to have another great team this year, and the Padres are loaded up. But this was a move by the Cardinals. They kind of are seeing an opportunity to maybe make a run here with some young talent. They re-signed Adam Wainwright as well. So the talent is there for them. I think, I don't know what the odds are right now on it, but I got to assume they're the odds-on favorite to win the NL Central. I don't know what the value is there, but definitely something to look at as a bettor. And the Rockies are going to just, at this point, be a team I'm not betting on much this year. He was their only bright spot. He's one of, if not the top third baseman in all of baseball right now. So for them to kind of trade him away, it's been interesting. We've seen some high-profile trades in the MLB. You saw Francisco Lindor get traded. He's one of the best shortstops in baseball. He goes to the Mets this offseason from Cleveland. Now you see Nolan Arenado, one of the top third basemen, go from Colorado to St. Louis. And then last offseason, you saw my Boston Red Sox trade Mookie Betts to the Dodgers, who's one of the best players in all of baseball. So a lot of these high-profile baseball players are on the move. It's very interesting to see. So I'm excited to see how this works out for the Cardinals. I think they're going to be right in the mix of things. One other baseball note, again, not much to say about it. Dustin Pedroia retired today. Being a Red Sox fan, he's like one of the last like childhood Red Sox that I can think of. 2007, they beat the Rockies in the World Series. He was the AL Rookie of the Year that year. Then the next year in 2008, he won MVP. I've heard that the Red Sox are going to retire his number, which I think is very fitting. He was a fan favorite in Boston, just a hardworking guy. Loved the game of baseball and stuff like that. From Woodland, California. Shout out Woodland. So they're gonna do some ceremonies for him. Hopefully COVID's not going on, so he can get a cool fan, round of applause and stuff like that. But he'll always be remembered as like one of the more fun and hardworking baseball players. And before, one other thing, not MLB related, we're going to shift to the NFL now before we get to college basketball. Huge trade in the NFL. The LA Rams, I almost said St. Louis because I was just talking about the Cardinals. The LA Rams and the Detroit Lions swapped quarterbacks along with some other assets. The Rams sent Detroit Jared Goff, former number 1 overall pick, 2 first-round picks, as well as a third-round pick for 32-year-old Matthew Stafford, also a former number 1 pick. So we're going to just break this down and look at it from each team's perspective. My initial thought when I heard this was, wow, the Rams really just gave up a lot for Matthew Stafford, who I love Matthew Stafford. I think he's good. But, 0-3 in the playoffs, and there's a very fair argument to be made that that's just because Detroit sucks and stuff like that. The Lions are not a good football team, which is absolutely fair. The Lions are not a good football team. He's had practically nothing to work with the majority of his career. Right around the time he came in, Calvin Johnson was done. He hasn't had much. And then if you look at it from the Lions' perspective, you just got a young quarterback and 2 first-round draft picks and a third-round draft pick for a player who didn't want to play with you anymore. It was said that it was kind of agreed upon that they were going to part ways this offseason. So I think for the Lions, it was a good haul. But I'm very interested to see, because I think for the Rams, it's obvious they're in win-now mode. And we had heard a lot about how Sean McVay and Jared Goff needed some marriage counseling. And now looking back on it, I don't think it was as apparent, but in the postseason, if you look at the game against Seattle, it was said Goff was hurt, and Wolford got the start in that game, and then obviously he got concussed and Goff came in. Goff played pretty damn well once he came back in, so it makes me wonder how hurt was Goff really, and how much was it just McVay's kind of done with this guy. I got a report a few days ago, an update saying there's going to be a QB battle between Wolford and Goff for the starting position this offseason. So it sounded like there was some clear tension between Goff and McVay. And I think if you're McVay now, you really got to prove how good of a coach you are. Because I think Sean McVay is a great coach. But if you don't win a Super Bowl with Matt Stafford in the next 4 or 5 years that he's got left or so, and that's kind of looking on the high end. The guy's had a couple surgeries before. You kind of screwed yourself. You traded away 2 first-round picks. Since they took Jared Goff, they haven't had a first-round pick because they traded to get him. They traded 2 first-rounders to move up to get him. So the Rams are in a clear win-now mode. I think the biggest winner, in my opinion, from this is Matthew Stafford. That was actually involved in the trade. There is a bigger winner I'll get to in a second. But for him, he has been stuck in Detroit his entire career. One of the worst organizations in football, one of the biggest losing organizations in all sports. They're just a piss-poor franchise. You heard he didn't want to go to New England because he didn't want to play with Matt Patricia, which is absolutely fair after what happened in Detroit. I wouldn't want to play with that former head coach either, although I do love Matt Patricia. So I think that for him, he's got a great head coach now. Sean McVay's an absolute stud. They have an amazing defense. You got prime Aaron Donald, prime Jalen Ramsey. And then from an offense perspective, he's got some good receivers out there. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods, both tremendous talents. And then in the backfield, you got Cam Akers, who's a good running back, very solid. But I can't help but think the 2 first-rounders and a third, maybe 1 first included in that, which I still think would have been a lot. My biggest question is was Jared Goff that bad and McVay was just making him look really good? Is Matthew Stafford really this good to give up that many picks for? And then the real winner, although obviously they weren't involved in this trade here, was the Houston Texans. When you saw what was just given up for Matthew Stafford, a competent starting quarterback, which Jared Goff is, 2 first-round picks and a third-round pick, what Deshaun Watson is going to go for is going to be insane. You got to think Deshaun Watson is probably a top 5 quarterback in the league. I think most people would agree on that. Aaron Rodgers, Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, Russell Wilson, and then probably Deshaun Watson is right there in that conversation. If you have him out of the top 5, he can't be by more than a quarterback or two. And where I think Stafford is probably just outside of the top 10. So Deshaun Watson is, I think, the only two teams that can trade for him now as far as just assets goes. I mean, anyone could if you're willing to give up that many picks, but the Jets with Sam Darnold and the number 2 overall pick this year could do those two and another 2 first-round picks. So you got a very young quarterback, 3 first-rounders, including the number 2 this year. Or obviously, the Miami Dolphins are in a great spot to do this with Tua Tagovailoa, who they don't seem like they're really ready to commit to. The number 3 pick this year, they have a later first-round pick. So between those 2 picks, maybe you throw one more on there. But Tua, he's obviously talented. We saw what he did at Alabama. He was a good quarterback. And then to have 3 more first-round picks on top of it potentially, I think those are the only 2 teams that could go out and get Deshaun Watson. I can't imagine there's any way the Texans keep him after what they just saw Stafford go for. I mean, I get that the Rams' first-round picks are going to be a little later, probably outside of the top 20, just because they'll have a good team. But Deshaun Watson's he's gonna clean house, whatever that trade is. The Texans are just going to get everything they want, and deservingly so. Deshaun Watson is a generational talent. He's an amazing quarterback. I think if you put Deshaun Watson on the Dolphins, they're right in the mix as a Super Bowl team. I mean, that defense is outstanding. They got some good offensive weapons, so that's very interesting to see how that's going to go. But Matthew Stafford to the Rams was certainly something we're going to take note of. That division is going to be really tough this year with Seattle, obviously, hopefully getting better. They kind of finished on a shaky note. The 49ers hopefully getting healthy. They were injury-ridden all season, and they're another team with some quarterback questions. I've heard maybe they stick with Jimmy. I've heard Matt Ryan. Today I heard possibly Kirk Cousins gets moved, and that doesn't make sense to me. But there's no reason to just talk about rumors at this point. So, and then obviously Arizona, Kyler Murray's going to keep getting better. Cliff Kingsbury's going to get some more experience as an NFL coach. That team will get better. But the Rams, I think they got to probably be the favorite to win that division right now. And then if you look at Detroit, they're going to suck for a while. Goff isn't the type of guy that's going to come in and win right away, especially, with how bad the rest of that team is. So I hope he does well. And then, I mean, that's got to suck too. If you look at Goff, he's lived in California his entire life, born there, went to high school there, college there, in the NFL. Now you got to move to Detroit. That's got to be one of the grossest downgrades of all time. And then good for Stafford because grew up in California, had to go and play in Detroit for the majority of his career, and now can go back to California. So from a personal note, I think Goff has probably got to be the biggest loser here because I couldn't imagine being like Mr. Hollywood in LA and now having to live in Detroit. That's got to just be disgusting. Anyways, let's get to college basketball. We had an absolutely amazing Saturday. Not too many upsets, although the ones that happened, I would like to point out, I told you people about. So that's neither here nor there, I guess. But I went 9-4 this week. This weekend. My losses being Syracuse, who won but did not cover. Wisconsin, who we'll get to, but I hate them. Alabama, who played a really close game, and Kansas, who fucking sucks. Terrible. Logan, who was one of our guests last weekend, he also went 9-4. He lost West Virginia, who was upset at home against Florida. Minnesota, who lost to Purdue. Syracuse won but didn't cover. and bum-ass Kansas. And then our poor boy, Deli Dom, went 6-7. He lost West Virginia, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Syracuse, Kansas, Clemson, and Arkansas. So just going to review those games from this weekend. Not really going to talk about Baylor and Auburn too much. 14-point spread. I think Auburn covered, but Baylor's in a league of their own. We'll get to Baylor looking ahead to the games on Tuesday night. But first, you got Bama at Oklahoma. This line moved a lot. When I saw it Friday night, I saw Bama +1. And then Saturday morning when I woke up, I saw Bama -3.5. So 4.5-point swing on that line there is pretty drastic. Oklahoma pulls out the win and the cover. I think what this showed me, I picked Bama in this game. It wasn't really a knock on Alabama. It was more that Oklahoma's real. Oklahoma's very good. They're in the middle of the game against Texas Tech right now. I can give us a live score update on that in Texas Tech. So obviously another tough Big 12 game. 7 minutes left. Oklahoma down 4. We'll keep a tab on that as this rolls on. But Oklahoma, real deal. I don't know where they're going to be seated come tournament time. They're in the top 10 right now in the AP poll, so you got to think they'll be right around that 3-4 spot. They're a team that can give people matchup issues. They play solid defense. They're good on offense. Kruger's a great head coach, so I think Oklahoma's a team you got to watch out for, obviously. And then Alabama, my issue with them, if there is any, is they're just a little too reliant on the 3-ball. When you, especially come tournament time, if you're a team trying to make a deep run, being too reliant on the 3 can be a big issue, because if you ever have a cold day, kind of like they did against Oklahoma, it can really hurt you. So that's a thing to keep an eye on, is Bama streaky shooting. But a good game. Very impressed with both teams. Next, you got Arkansas at Oklahoma State. I think these two teams, very similar. They're going to come in probably single-digit seeds, but 6, 7, or 8, 9 in that range. Oklahoma State pulls out the win at home. Not really much to say here. Oklahoma State, I think, is very good. Cunningham kid is just an absolute monster. He'll be an NBA player. He'll be a very good NBA player. So I'm excited to see where they can go tournament time. They're a team where, in the second round, in the round of 32, coming in at the 6th seed, they could be playing, a 3 seed, it would be in theory. And if that 3 seed is a team like Alabama or something like that, or Tennessee, that could be a very real upset. And then even in the next round, where they could be potentially playing a 1 seed or a 2 seed. So Oklahoma State, I think, is a team to watch out for come tournament time, filling out your brackets, looking for them to, there's always upsets in March, always. And Oklahoma State could be a team that pulls off some of those upsets. I think Arkansas is truthfully the same way. This was a close game. It's not like Arkansas got the shit beat out of them or anything like that. Eric Musselman's a great head coach. They're gonna be ready to go come tournament time. They'll probably be a little bit lower of a seed than Oklahoma State, if I had to guess. It'll be interesting to see how they do in the SEC tournament, where you're probably gonna have to go through Florida and Tennessee to get to that championship game. So excited to take a look at both of those teams. The Texas-Kentucky game got canceled, which is very upsetting because I thought Texas would roll over Kentucky, and I would have liked to see that. Kansas at Tennessee. We all three of us on last episode were on Kansas, and Kansas lost bad. Kansas got obliterated, destroyed, wasn't even close. They were a 3.5-point dog, didn't even come close to covering. It was close to a 20-point game. I think this was a little bit of showing how good Tennessee is. I think they had been a team that had kind of slipped up. They had dropped down in the rankings to about 18 or so. So for them, it was impressive, but I don't think Kansas is a top 25 team. And if they are, it's barely. I think this game showed that they were exposed as just frauds, a terrible team. They're going to come into the tournament around a 4 seed. They're a team I could look at to get knocked off in the first round or something like that. So it's going to be very interesting to see Kansas come tournament time. And Tennessee, on the other hand, they're going to come into this probably right around a 4 seed as well, maybe a little higher, maybe a 3 seed. They're a team that if they play like they just did against Kansas, they could pull off not necessarily some upsets, but they could be an Elite Eight team or something like that. So Tennessee, another good team to watch out for. And Kansas, I hate you. Those Bama and Kansas were 2 of my 4 losses. 9 wins, 4 losses. Gave you guys some free money this weekend. Next, you want to talk about stressful, was Texas Tech LSU. All 3 of us were on Texas Tech. They did win. They did cover. But wow. I had it at 3.5. I saw it close at 4.5. Didn't matter which one you had. They won by 5. They closed the game on a 12-0 run. And the way they covered, Mac McClung is going to be unreal in March. He's just one of those special kids. You know he's going to hit a buzzer beater. You know he's going to put up something ridiculous like 37 points in a game or something like that. Just shoot lights out from 3. And that's what he did. He makes a 3. They call a timeout. He tips the inbound pass. They get the steal. They miss a shot. McClung gets the rebound, runs to the 3-point line, and splashes a 3. And then to cover the game. So at this point, they are up. They, meaning Texas Tech, is up 3 points with like 8 seconds or so. LSU comes down, misses their 3. Texas Tech thankfully gets the rebound, and with like 1.4 seconds left, LSU fouls. Texas Tech goes to the line, makes both free throws, goes up 5 to cover. I was stressed. This was one of my bigger games. I liked Texas Tech a lot. Happy they came through. I hope you guys were on them as well. But I think obviously Texas Tech is a good team. I don't think it's going to come to any surprise to anyone if they're an Elite Eight team come March or anything like that, or further. I think that when they're on their game, they can play with anyone. McClung, it's not his issue, it's their issue, is I think they're a little too reliant on him. If he ever had an off night, which in the tournament is not that crazy, you're playing some 2 games in 4 days and stuff like that, or I guess it would be 3 days. He could, if he has an off night in the round of 32, I could see them getting upset. And then LSU really impressed me in this game. I didn't expect it to be this close. I thought it would be 10 points or more possibly. So I think LSU is another team where they could be coming in right around a 8, 9, 10 spot. Maybe if they get a good matchup. We obviously don't know who's going to be the 1 and the 2 seeds, but if they get like a Villanova in the second round, who I would say is one of the lower 1 seeds that we're seeing in the projections, or if Bama gets a 2 or something like that, that LSU could be a team that could pull off an upset. So watch out for the Tigers come tournament time. But a gutsy win by the Raiders on the road. I love to see it. This one, a tremendous pick on my part. I was on Florida. The other 2 lads were on West Virginia. Florida comes in at a 6-point underdog. I said they would win the game outright. So if you listen to me, you bet Florida money line, you're probably a millionaire right now. West Virginia, there's not really much to say about them. They're a good team. I don't know if they're a great team. They would be someone who I could see getting knocked off in the first or second round, depending where the seeding comes in and stuff like that. I don't see them getting past the Sweet 16 at best. And then Florida is a team where possibly coming in at that 7 or 8 spot, playing very similar to LSU in a sense, but I think Florida is better than LSU, where they could be playing a 1 or a 2 or a 3 in the round of 32 and could very realistically pull off that upset. They went on the road into Morgantown, tough place to play. West Virginia is good team, and they won that game. So very impressed with Florida. West Virginia, I'm not surprised, obviously, as I took Florida, but little disappointing in West Virginia. I don't think they're going to do anything come March. I'd be more excited about this game if it wasn't for what just happened. Clemson at Duke. Logan and I were on Duke. Dom was on Clemson. Duke kills Clemson. Blows them out of the water. That's all I really have to say about Clemson. I don't think Clemson's a good team. They were hot, but they've seemed to really slow down since their COVID break. Maybe if they can pull it back together before the tournament time. But from what we've seen from Clemson post-COVID, they have not been a stellar team. And Duke, I was saying before this game, Duke might be back. They might be turning the ship around. And then they do this and kill Clemson. So then tonight, being Monday night when this is being recorded, Duke played Miami. Duke on the road, -11. I was all over Duke. I liked them. And they came out and they shit the bed. They lose the game outright. They didn't even cover. So I am officially admitting defeat. Duke, I don't know if they're going to make the tournament. They probably will just because of their name, but I don't think they go anywhere. They can't be a high seed. They'll lose in the first round because they're just not good. It's plain and simple to me. They're just not that good this year. It's heartbreaking, but that's the way it is. Over to the Big Ten now, Minnesota at Purdue. This was another one where I was so low on it. The other two on Minnesota. Purdue wins the game, covers the spread. Purdue, I've said this about a couple of teams. They're going to come into the tournament right around that 5-6 spot, and they are a team I could see going to the Sweet 16 or even the Elite 8. I'm very high on Purdue. Minnesota is the quintessential Big Ten team this year where they're just inconsistent. I couldn't see them getting past the round of 32. They'll probably be right around a 10 seed, give or take one. And they might win their first game, but they won't win their second. But Purdue, another team to watch out for come March and in the Big Ten tournament in general. If I was looking at future bets for the Big Ten tournament, Michigan obviously being the favorite, can't be too much value in that. But Purdue to win the Big Ten tournament could have some value for sure. Something I would consider looking at for some of you bettors out there. Next, we had Wisconsin at Penn State. This was a loss for me and Dom and a win for Logan. Wisconsin, they were just off the whole game. They were missing open threes. They're an old team, which I like. Their average starting age is older than some NBA teams' average starting age, which is crazy. But just a battle of two inconsistent Big Ten teams. Wisconsin had a bad day. Penn State had a good day. Hard to win on the road in the Big Ten. Wisconsin, they're a team I could see getting upset in the first or second round. Again, we'll probably come in around a 4 or 5 seed, depending on who they play. If they run into a hot 13 seed or something like that in the first round, I could see them falling. Penn State, I don't see them doing anything. We then had Oregon at USC get canceled. Heartbreaking. Loved USC in this matchup. But it is what it is. 4:50 left, Texas Tech up 4. So we're going to keep looking at that, see if there is an upset there. And to end the games we had on Saturday, another underdog to straight up win that we gave you. Virginia at Virginia Tech. Virginia Tech pulls off the upset. Virginia, again, I don't think is the real deal. They're going to come in right around a 3 seed, and I could see them losing in the second round, maybe even the first round, depending on who the matchups are. Virginia Tech is sadly a team I don't really see going too far. Sweet 16 at most. I don't think when they come across some of these better teams that they're going to be able to win in the tournament. I hope I'm wrong. I like Virginia Tech, but that is that. And then over to Sunday, Ohio State beat the shit out of Michigan State. Not really much else to say right there. Michigan State is not good. We were all on Ohio State there. SMU at Houston. All three of us on Houston. Houston covers a 10-point spread. They won by like 20. That was a lock that we had. So we went 2-1 in our locks this week. Houston, great win, great team, Final Four team in my opinion. Depending, obviously, you got to see how the bracket looks. NC State at Syracuse. Syracuse wins but doesn't cover. Streaky team, both of them. NC State impressed me. I didn't think they were this good. I didn't think Syracuse played bad. I just think NC State played very well. So that was upsetting. That was a lock that we lost. Rutgers at Northwestern. Rutgers almost blew this. They were up 20 in the first half, and they ended up just barely covering the spread. I think they won by like 7 or something like that, and it was 5.5 or so. So another team that I don't think will do anything come March. They started the season real hot, and they've cooled off since then. So very disappointed in Rutgers. I'm happy they won and they covered, but as far as their odds for the tournament goes, I don't see them going anywhere. And lastly, we had UNLV at UNR. UNR comes out and wins the game by 29. That was another one of our locks, only a 2-point favorite. The Pack comes out and just obliterates UNLV. I don't know why this line was only 2. UNLV is not a good team, and UNR is not a bad team. So I don't think either of these teams will make the tournament. Maybe if UNR can heat up and win the Mountain West tournament, which I don't know. I think Boise State and Colorado State are pretty good. But UNLV fucking sucks. And that was just proven tonight. UNR, superior school, 5-0 in basketball since I've been a student there against UNLV. Literally have never lost to the Rebels in basketball. I've been courtside for a couple of those games in the student section. It is lively. I am so sad we couldn't pack Lawler for that game because the boys would have been buzzing, and it would have been absolutely tremendous. To get to Tuesday's games now, like I said, 9-4 from the last show. I went 2-1 tonight. I had Loyola Chicago -7, won by 20 against Montana State. Watch out for Sister Jean. She is immortal, 101 years old, still kicking. Watch out for them. My one loss was sadly Duke, and my other win was Louisville from this morning, -3.5. Cover that easy against Georgia Tech. We'll start in the SEC. We have Tennessee -5 against Ole Miss. I like Tennessee here. I think a lot of people might be looking for a letdown after that big win against Kansas. I see it as a chance for them to try to build momentum and keep riding it. This was a huge win for them. I don't think Ole Miss is that good. I've watched them 2 or 3 times this year. They have never impressed me. I'm not really worried about it being on the road. I like Tennessee here in this -5 spot. Sticking with the SEC, and this is one of my locks for tomorrow, Arkansas -7 home against Mississippi State. Arkansas played Oklahoma State very well. Mississippi State I don't think is very good. In Arkansas, I think Muss will look to get the boys back on track. They're going to win the game. I think they cover pretty easily here. 7, it doesn't really worry me too much. So Arkansas -7. We'll switch over to the Big 12 here. Baylor -6 at Texas. This is a game that I think a lot of people are excited to see. Baylor, obviously the number 2 team in the country. Texas, a top 5 team themselves. In Texas, I don't care. Give me the Bears. Lock. That is a lock for tomorrow. I'm going to give 3 locks, and that's the second one. Baylor, I think Texas is good. I actually really like Texas. Honestly, I think they're an Elite 8 team, which isn't like an unpopular opinion, even potentially a Final Four team, depending on who they're playing. But I think Baylor is the best team in the country, and I'm not going to say it's not close because Gonzaga is very good, but outside of those 2 teams, I think there is a significant drop-off. Shaka Smart, the head coach for Texas, don't know if he'll be back, don't really care. Give me Baylor in this spot. Let's see. Moving to the Big 10 now. Purdue even at Maryland. I'm taking Purdue here. Purdue, like I said earlier, is a team I'm very high on to make not a Cinderella story, but a lower seed making a run into this tournament. So I'm very excited for that. Maryland has been a team that's been a little tricky this year. I bet on Michigan against them, and oh no. Yeah, so I bet on Michigan against them, and Maryland beats Michigan earlier in the season, which was a big upset. And then the next game, I take Maryland against Minnesota, and then Minnesota comes out and beats the shit out of Maryland. So Maryland is a tricky team. I'm going with Purdue here. I just think Purdue's better. I get that it's on the road. That does scare some people. I like Purdue, though, in this spot to win the game. You don't have to lay any points. Next, in the Big Ten as well, we have Illinois minus 3.5 at Indiana. Give me the Fighting Illini. I think Illinois, they had a great game against Iowa. Really impressed me. I didn't bet that game, but I would have taken Iowa if I was going to. I think they look to keep that rolling. 3.5, not a lot. Indiana, not a good team. Give me Illinois. They'll win the game by 4. I'm confident in that. Finishing up with our Power 5 conferences, we have one game from the ACC and one game from the Pac-12. In the ACC, Notre Dame minus 4.5 versus Wake Forest in Notre Dame. Give me the Fighting Irish. They have played solid basketball this year. They've lost to some good teams. Wake Forest is not a good team. I expect the Irish to come out. I expect them to cover. I expect them to look good in this game against a poor Demon Deacon team, in all honesty. So give me Notre Dame. Last Power 5 game. This is one of my locks. USC minus 2 at Stanford. Give me the Trojans. I was going to be on them big against Oregon. Game gets canceled. Very similar situation here where I just think USC is a good team. I'm not high on Stanford, just like I wasn't high on Oregon. I think the Trojans win this game. I think they look impressive doing so. So lock that game up. 3 locks. Baylor minus 6 at Texas. USC minus 2 at Stanford. And Arkansas minus 7 against Mississippi State. 2 games from some group of 5 conferences. Dayton minus 2 against Dunquise. I'm not exactly sure if I pronounced that right. Dayton is a team that I had been high on this year. I bet Dayton when they were at home against the same team, Dunquess. Dayton minus 2 here. You basically just have to win the game, which I think the Flyers will do. Dayton's just a good basketball program, so I expect them to come out and play well. And lastly, the University of Nevada, Reno, minus 5.5 against the UNLV Runnin' Rebels. Nothing I saw Sunday night makes me think this will be a close game. 5.5, I think Reno wins by double digits again. I think they beat the shit out of a little brother school like UNLV is. Big brother, little brother. UNR, big brother. UNLV, little brother. Pack by at least 10. 5.5, no issue. Love the Wolfpack in this spot. UNLV sucks, so give me the Pack. To review our card overall, we are 11-5 in our last 16. We have Tennessee minus 5 at Ole Miss. Baylor minus 6 at Texas. Purdue even at Maryland. USC minus 2 at Stanford. Illinois minus 3.5 at Indiana. Arkansas minus 7 against Ole Miss. Nevada minus 5.5 against UNLV. Dayton minus 2 at Dunquise. And Notre Dame minus 4.5 versus Wake Forest. That is the show for today. Thank you guys so much. We're at 57 subscribers now. Poster giveaway at 69, just 12 more. So I really appreciate all the support that's coming in and whatnot. Hopefully you guys ride with some of these bets because we're just giving away free money. I haven't had a losing day on this show, be it NFL, be it college basketball. We're just giving away winners here. So tell your neighbor, tell your dog, tell your mom, tell whoever, because we're giving away free money basically here. Next episode will be out Saturday morning, maybe Friday morning, one or the other, before the Super Bowl. Huge guest on the show. Huge guest. So that's going to be awesome. Make sure you guys tune in for that. Thank you guys for watching. Subscribe and like, por favor. I appreciate that. Texas Tech just went final 57-52, a win for the Red Raiders. So that is our show. Make sure you ride with the picks, and love you guys.